Hey, hi guys. So I am finally getting back to my guided meditations on YouTube. And as promised, I am going to do a empath meditation. But first, I want to explain a little bit about what being an empath is. So this video will be the explanation, and then I'll do the guided meditation as a separate file. That way, if you want to listen to it over and over again, you can, and you don't have to worry about having the instructional along with it. So being an empath, I am an empath. It could be a very challenging thing to go through, especially if you don't really understand. And for a lot of empaths growing up, they didn't quite know what it was. There was no word for it. And so as adults, we tend to struggle with heavy emotions and find it really hard to release those emotions. I struggle with this often. A lot of the keys or signs that you're an empath is if you were a child and you were always told you're too sensitive, or you have to grow a thicker skin, or you take things too personally. Doesn't necessarily mean you're an empath, but chances are it's that you are. So if you heard those things as a child, go through some of those past memories and look at what the situation was at the time. Was those heavy emotions that it have to do with the situation at hand? Was the proportion of emotion to the situation appropriate, or was it heightened? If it was heightened, it probably means that you were an empath. If you felt responsible for other people's feelings, more often than not, afraid of hurting people's feelings, afraid of feeling along with another person, chances are you're an empath. And this is just one perspective. Many of seekers and spiritual practitioners know this already, or starting to realize that there are many truths. We are multi-dimensional, and more those veils are being lifted, and we're feeling the multiple dimensions more and more. And so we're realizing that there are infinite possibilities of truth. Of course, this does not mean absolute truth and universal law. Universal law and absolute truth, it's the same through all the dimensions. And, obviously, enlightenment, nirvana, is to get to a state where there's no other truth to live in other than absolute truth and universal truth. But as a human, and the way our brain works and the human ego works, we can't always make that giant leap because of social conditioning and just the nature of how our neural nets are wired. We usually need to get there through these more dimensional truths. So I relate it to like the major arcana in tarot and the minor arcana. The major arcana deals with these absolute truths, these major archetypes, this universal law. Where the minor arcana, the truth is based more on the circumstance and perspective. So it's all about finding the best truth that helps change your perspective enough to elevate you to the next level. And then eventually, once you step into universal truth, you don't need these multidimensional perspectives, we'll call them. But for anyone who is struggling with being an empath, I'm going to offer up this as a perspective to step into. And, as that changes, as you no longer need that perspective, let it go and see what other perspectives and truths are out there for you to hold on to for a while. So just be really fluid with it. And especially when you're dealing with anything esoteric online, you're going to get so many different perspectives, and if you try and lock in, it can make you a little bit crazy. And we all fall into this trap. We want to know, what do we believe? What are we supposed to believe? Well, it's esoteric. I mean, we're dealing with nuanced energy. And so we're not really supposed to latch onto it. We're just supposed to allow it to carry us to the next level. And it's finding the thing that resonates the most with our experience. And then once that doesn't resonate anymore, then we let that go and we look for another perspective or another opinion or another truth that resonates with our experience. So it's a little bit hard for our left brain to kind of like make peace with, but it's just the nature. It's just the nature of how this, these divinations and energy healing practices work. And to get to a point where you don't need them, like I said, once you're in enlightenment, true enlightenment, nirvana, bliss, then you don't need any of this other stuff. So these are just merely the tools to get you there, if you so choose. And it could be fun if you enjoy it. So as an empath, so one of the things that you may find yourself struggling against is having a hard time really just holding your own emotions, staying in your peace body, because if somebody is going through a really hard time, we can feel it so deeply, and so we want to be able to fix it, we want to be able to heal it, we want to be able to do something about it, and then what happens is that energy gets lodged into our energetic system, and we can't really help until we purge that energy from our system. So a lot of times as empaths, we want to take on other people's problems, and because we have this, inner knowing of being the alchemist, and the alchemist turned, twine into gold, but changing things from one form to another. So we know we have this power to change energy into a better form. And we tend to want to be able to take somebody else's experience or difficulty or struggle, take it within our body and change that form and give it back to them in a more peaceful way. Well, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. A lot of times, obviously, their karma, they have to go through their own struggle and learn their own lessons, and it's not necessarily appropriate for us to take on this energy. Sometimes it is, but it's very easy to have it get stuck in our energy field if we don't properly know how to release it, or if we're just not practiced enough, or we're stressed, or our resistance is low. We're not going to be able to process those heavy emotions for other people efficiently without affecting ourselves. And I also think as an empath, we underestimate the amount of clearing that we need to do. It's pretty constant, I'm finding, and that if you don't constantly clear out that energy, it can get backlogged, and then it, you start to think it's your own. It's like, other people's shadows. You think that they're your shadows, and in some respect, it is, because obviously we're all mirrors of each other, and if it's bringing up stuff in us, it's there already. But the extent to which we're feeling it, we're piggybacking other people's emotional issues onto our own emotional issues and making it a big giant, dirt pile rather than maybe just a little dust. And this, is happening more and more right now. I think for, like I said, again, for empaths who don't know how to clear well, aren't super, super duper grounded in their own energy field. I admit that's me. Which is why I wanted to do this video, to help those out there who are still trying to navigate this world. And it happens a lot with people, like I said, who as a child or a teenager growing up, it wasn't valued. It was something that was, kind of a source of shame. You were made to feel like you were weaker, or there was something wrong with you, like I said, too emotional, just all these negative connotations. So we didn't learn the proper tools, and we suppressed it. And so now as we're starting to uncover and recognize and understand it, that old data, that old conditioning comes back into play. And so, we get ourselves tripped up in that a lot. But right now, it's getting a little bit more intense because we're so universally connected, globally connected, and so it's not just we're taking on the emotions of our friends and family and the people around us. We're feeling it on a global level. Our media is able to show us things that are going on around the world that we wouldn't necessarily have that daily access to. So we're feeling the pain. We're hearing about it, and it can get very overwhelming. I mean, we are dealing with a whole lot of sludge, historically, as well as, like I said, in this present moment that we are processing. And so the point of that is that it's even more important to be able to clear regularly, constantly, pretty much every minute have some sort of like clearing process, whether it's a mantra or a sacred space or a meditation, and then do your best not to kind of get hard on yourself if you do find yourself getting overwhelmed and angry and losing patience with people and not quite knowing why. So it's just, that's, as you learn to navigate it a little bit better, it's going to be easier, and you can start to kind of give somebody a warning and say, okay, this is just the stuck energy coming out. So I may spend a couple days being a little bit cranky, but at the end of it, I promise I'll apologize. All right, so hopefully that clears it up a little bit for you. If you still have some questions, you can definitely shoot me some comments. Also, if you have any great empath techniques that you want to share, go ahead and share it here. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with this meditation. And this meditation, like I said, will be great. You can use it in the morning, you can use it at night, throw your headphones on throughout the day. Just don't do it driving at all. And do your best to not be distracted so that you can give yourself permission to fully sink into into your own beingness. All right. Enjoy the meditation.